my daughter was in a home of two entrepreneurs.
Mhm.
So I really I wanted to make sure that I taught my daughter, or at least she was exposed to, this was very important and intentional, that she understood. Like, I grew up understanding one pathway to money, and that's go work for someone else.
Right.
I really have become more entrepreneurial in my adult life, and that is something that I'm still in process of, that I know is a pathway for me.
Hmm.
I'm moving into. It doesn't mean I still won't work for and with others, but it was very important to expose my daughter to that. So, and in the entrepreneurial world, it just means you have more pathways, more possibilities, but learning how to set your own structure,
Oh yeah.
and deciding what you want for yourself, and learning how to budget, and learning. I mean, I had my daughter in Girl Scouts, which was great, right? Because it teaches you, the whole cookie program is all about business, teaching them how,
Hmm.
and boy, did we discover a lot of areas that my daughter needed to learn in order to understand how to, receiving, getting your materials right,
Yeah.
and the exchange of money, and promoting that. And so, like, it covers every aspect of business, and it's so important, particularly in today's climate, that kids start exploring all of those
Yeah.
possibilities at that age, and then know what are their interests, what are their passions, start laying down the foundation for how to
But
even
it's
go about
also how
that.
they're exposed, because like I don't think it, had you not pointed out, for instance, a lot of the education that I got from my father about business was incidental. Like, the whole lawnmower thing, it wasn't like he set out to teach me a lesson. It was that I needed something. He didn't want to pay for it, but he knew that I would make enough money to pay it back. And um, and I'm pretty sure he also needed a new lawnmower, or wanted a new lawnmower, and he figured this would be a good way to get a new lawnmower.
A true
Um,
businessman.
oh yeah, my father is an opportunist. Like he is truly an opportunist. He's a good man. He's a person of integrity, and he really does care about people and wants to help people. But opportunity is something that he sees, and everything is an opportunity. And
Hmm.
so I really don't believe that at any point in time, we've had conversations about this, because there's things I know about, finance, money, insurance, and retirement, and all those other things that he knew nothing about. And he never thought, I need to teach my kids how to be
Hmm.
entrepreneurs, ever.
Hmm.
Like, he came from a family of, oh, you're going to college? Oh, good for you. That was my grandparents.
Mm.
They had no idea what was going on in his life. He went off to the Peace Corps, and they're like, "You're going where? You're gonna learn Portuguese? Like, what are you gonna do? Oh, okay. Good luck." Like, that was his parental involvement. So with me and I have an older sister. Um, I think he was more engaged, as in he showed up to our events, our performances, our whatever. Um, he was engaged from that standpoint, but I don't think at any point in time it was like a conscious, oh, I need to teach them this.
Mm.
They need to learn this. And that is, I think, a massive difference between what you were doing with your daughter.
Hmm. Hmm.
Because there's so many things that, had he taught me, I would have done differently,
Hmm.
from the
Hmm.
time I was, a teenager to, in my 40s. Like, I just would have done things differently.
Let's talk about something here, because there's a really interesting distinction that's important, is between being an opportunist and being an entrepreneur. Those
Yeah,
are very different things in
very,
my
very
mind.
different. Yes. And
Very different.
opportunistic people are not always favored in the light of good. That's why I had to clarify. I'm like,
Hmm.
because, and I've had this argument with him, and I've actually, we've had our differences. There was a 2-year period of time where I had nothing to do with him. And opportunistic people, and I'm curious to get your thoughts on this, but they can be incredibly brash, come off as unfeeling, uncaring,
Narcissistic.
So I'm curious, what's your reaction to stop that? And I appreciate that. What is your experience with opportunistic people, and how do you define it?
Wow, now we're really hitting a hot spot button with me. Yeah, because when I made that shift from sort of understanding a creative pathway through going and working for others into entrepreneur, so I was, and a lot of that, which I'm very grateful for, came about. One of my draws to the person I married was I really appreciated his entrepreneurial creativity. And so that was a real, that was such a beautiful thing for me to have in my life. And inside of that, I learned also the difference between being opportunistic and entrepreneurial. So opportunistic, in my opinion, feels very much like the hustle mentality. Like I've got hustle, but I don't have like the wheeling and dealing kind of aspect of it that feels really lack of humanity. I've had a good stretch now, okay, with opportunistic people. And I'm talking now on the spectrum, the dial is very, very close to the narcissistic. Okay. So that is a dance that I've been doing for a while, another pattern that I'm breaking free from, because it was the entrepreneurial desire that brought me to that. But then I've encountered these characters that live in this space, and it very much in the creative, mad genius, risk-taking kind of space. You get this narcissistic, opportunistic aspect of creativity, which I understand now. Rather, like I've been this, like I'm moving away from this. I'm trying to find a place of why I'm even in the energy entanglement of the narcissistic personality. People that know me know that I have this pattern of like, bonding with the narcissist. And what I'm seeing, the reason why is because we're dancing on the same stage, which is the creative, sort of innovative. Like I think of, Elon Musk, who is this, like brilliant man who is so clear about his vision, but really like he's not going to care if he hurts your feelings along the way, or he's not sitting down. You know what I mean? He's got a vision, and I respect that, and I get that. But I'm trying to do the entrepreneurial dance where it involves a care for humanity, a connection for humanity. I want everyone to contribute ideas, and we make all of that work with structure and system, rather than like, I have to win, you have to lose so that I can win.
Yep.
I want the win-win, the yes and, not the either or, not like I don't care about you. You have to like, okay, I got what I need from you, and now you're disposable to me. Like, that is not what I do.
The win-win is, I think, essential, in life. It's an infinite game versus a finite game. The zero sum game, the zero sum game that gets played sometimes with some entrepreneurs, where it's like, they have to have it all, you get nothing. And, it doesn't really work, on an island, and we're on an island. We call it Earth. We call it a planet, but it's still an island, and, it's interesting to me because in some level, you can't care if you hurt other people's feelings if you're going to be successful. On the other hand, you have to care because there's a certain audience that's going to need you and want you and thrive because of you. And, the callousness that I think comes with some of that, like, I don't care what you think, this is what I'm doing. If you are on board with what they're doing, then, if you're on board with what they're doing, then you're not going to have a problem with, what's happening, and them saying, don't like me, you're going to say, but I like you. If you're not on board with what they're doing, and you're against it, then they're going to say that, and you're going to call them a callous, horrible person. You're going to call them, uncaring, and so depending on which side of the coin you're on is how you're going to come down on, and obviously Elon Musk is a polarizing figure because he's, a billionaire, and yet he's also trying to, change the systems in place to, create a better planet for us all to live on. So, some people, say the ends justify the means, let them do it. I don't care. And other people like, you got to reel them in. This is ridiculous. So, how you work, obviously is going to be different than me, and then but I think if we just shift our own perspectives, like, well, they're really trying to help their community, or are they really trying to help their community? And does that negatively impact anyone else's? If not, then great. Then they're just not for me, versus there are people out there that are not trying to help the community, or they're trying to help their community, but by virtue of hurting other people, like that, I'm not okay with. Because like I said, we're on an island, we're stuck on the same rock together, hurtling through space. So, let's be a little bit kinder to our neighbors. You can still have what you want. You can still think the way you want to think. You can still create the economy in your community you want to, and if my community wants to do business with your community, great. We'll create that, mutual trading between our economies, to create a bigger economy. But there is, that's essentially, what tribalism became. Cities or towns, cities, countries or states, countries, counties, I don't know, however you want to break it down. There's all these different layers. And, I think, going back to the opportunistic and the versus the entrepreneur, I think sometimes the opportunistic gets pegged with or painted with there's no feeling, there's no humanity, there's no caring. And that may be from a certain perspective, that's true. From a different perspective, that's not true. But that's where the entrepreneur is similar to the opportunist. Is the entrepreneur may be doing something great for the community, but how they're doing it still may be viewed, or painted with a certain brush.
It's a very, very rich conversation. And another conversation we had that was really impactful, that kind of there's an overlap, is back to collaboration and ownership, right? Because that's what we're really talking about too. Absolutely. Is and I'm good with all of these things. I'm good with a certain level of opportunity has to be required to even motivate something, right? Yeah. But I think the part that I struggle with from a negative perspective is when there's a level of inhumanity, and not seeing yourself as connected to the other. Therefore, it's easy to make a choice that dismisses the other. That's really like the either or thinking versus the yes and. Like, I'm such a win-win. I think in terms of win-win, how does everybody win? Because that's my limitless mind, seeing that everyone can win. And I know I'm probably idealistic. No, definitely have that feedback given to me before, but it's very rich. And then we can tie in the whole ownership.
This ties in really well. Want more? Check out this clip or the full episode. And don't forget to leave a comment. If you want more conversations and clips, check out our channel. Thanks for listening. See you next time.